did it. It's over. Path to Pennsylvania was an absolute success. Now, before we talk about the race, we know my end goal time. I ended up with a time of like 6 hours and 40 minutes or so. My goal was 5 hours and 45 minutes. And some of you watching are going to say, it's not really a success. Like, you didn't hit your goal. I will tell you this. This is the best I've felt about a race in years. So in the last 3 years, I've never felt this good about the outcome of a race. And I'll cover that in a second as to why. But this, I am 1,000% content with this race. And I'm going to pull up on the screen and we're going to go over why I'm that happy. We're going to talk about the race from the drive. I mean, we saw the drive up in the last video, but we'll talk about, the day of, the check-in day, how I felt mentally, how I felt, whatever, because I didn't record any of that. And then we'll talk about race day in general, trying to keep it as quick as possible, but I will throw out a little bit more detail. So let me get situated on the computer first before I start pulling up the details and start talking about it, and we'll get to it. All right, so let's go over the race. Like I said, overall, my time was like 5 hours or 6 hours and 40 minutes. Again, not the goal at all, but I had a great day. So let's start with the day. I was feeling really good up until, I was feeling really good, period. I had a nice drive, long, but it was a nice drive. Got to PA, whatever. Saturday morning come, we did check-in. I got there first thing, like 9:05 in the morning. They opened at 9. Check-in went nice and smooth, right through the line, really quick. Got my swag bag, all the other stuff. Grabbed the other stuff that I was looking at. The T-shirt with the names on it. I grab one of these towels every time, just so in the event that I want to hang it up on the wall, I have it on the wall. But I have the souvenirs for it. I don't remember if I bought anything else. I think there was a third thing I bought, but I don't quite remember what it was. Stayed around for the athlete brief, to get the water temperature, to hear about the different changes, which they actually made a change that I couldn't find in the athlete guide about the bike course that I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, they announced that at the athlete brief, which I was like, oh cool, I'm glad I was here to listen to that. And then athlete brief was over by 10:30, I think. Grabbed a couple of these silicone bracelets that our race director had. They say Ironman 70.3 Happy Valley. Grabbed a couple of those and I went back to the hotel. Once I got to the hotel, it was, okay, I had to pack my run bag, pack my bike bag, and get ready to go drop everything off at transition. So the way transition worked is there was a split transition. T1 was up at the lake, which is about 30 miles away, and then T2 was at the stadium near the finish line. The run bag at T2 had to be turned in on Saturday. The bike had to be turned in to T1 on Saturday, but the T1 transition bag did not have to be turned in Saturday night because you were going to be able to get to the bike. You were not going to be able to get to your run bag Sunday morning. So I had to put all my running shoes, my bib, my hat, my sweatband, whatever I was using, whatever kind of nutrition I was going to have, had to be in the run bag. So the only thing I didn't put in there out of everything I just named was I did not put any of my hydration. It was just going to sit overnight. I didn't want it to be like gross in the morning. So I didn't put that in there, but I did put the soft flask in the bag. Just by itself, an empty flask in the bag. Put that in there, closed it up tight, you kind of rolled it up, dropped it off because it was raining at drop-off. It ended up raining overnight, and then it was possibly going to rain during the race. So we knew it was going to be a wet day. Did that, dropped that off fairly quick. I think it was like around 11:30, 12, right before lunch or right after lunch or something like that. I went and dropped that off. I then went to the lake to drop off my bike, and transition at the lake was in a grass field. I'll put the map up here to kind of show I'll put the Google map image of here. So it was in this field and all the bikes were lined up, but the main aisle on the left-hand side was basically nothing but mud. It was a muddy, absolute mess. even the day of training, when everyone's trying to put it in transition, it was the most highly trafficked area. It made sense that it was going to be a muddy mess, right? So you get in there, you put the bike up. I didn't want to put everything on the bike. I just put the bike, left the computer off. I was I'll just bring it all back, whatever. Got my bearing where I was, and according to the setup, I knew I had a landmark. I was right across from the brick bathroom. Perfect, done deal. Once I was done with that, I went over and did a practice swim in the wetsuit. Here's a picture of me at the practice swim with the wetsuit on. Just wanted to get a feel for the water, a feel for the wetsuit in the water, because last time I did a practice test was earlier, a week prior almost, where it was 90 degrees out, or 96 degrees outside, 80 plus degree water. Now in Pennsylvania, it was like 60 something degrees, and the water was barely 72. So that it felt really good. I had to adjust some body positioning things with my technique because the wetsuit was pulling me up to the surface of the water a little bit more than I'm used to. So I had to readjust my sighting so I didn't choke myself. But everything felt good. I did a quick 400. Here's the 400 I did. Nothing really spectacular. Was feeling really, really good after that. After that, I got dressed, and then I drove the bike course. I wanted to see visually in the car landmarks, road conditions, just the different kind of, the terrain, and then I wanted to visually see the two big hills on the ride. There were 3 hills that people were concerned with. One was at mile 54, but the 2 big ones were at mile 27 to 28 and a half, and then mile 38 to 41. Those are the 2 big ones that I wanted to see, and as soon as I saw them in the car, I damn near pissed myself because they were a lot steeper than advertised, at least to me. And there was, after talking it out with Dom yesterday, there was really no way I could have trained for those hills here in Texas. I would have had to have been up north or northwest in the mountains to train for those. But we'll show you that in a little bit on the elevation chart, because obviously I got no video, no pictures during the actual race. After I drove the bike course, went to dinner, went back to the hotel. I was in bed by 9 o'clock, which was the earliest I've probably ever been to bed for a race. I got about 6 hours of sleep, 6.5 hours of sleep, which is the most I've ever gotten during, right before a race. I woke up feeling really good. So Sunday morning, I woke up around 3:30. I had breakfast, which was 2 packs of Pop-Tarts, so essentially 4 Pop-Tart pastries. I think that was 142 grams of carbs. I had a banana. There was about another 20 grams of carbs, so there's 160 grams of carbs. And then I had 2 scoops of G1M Sport and about a scoop and a half of Flight. So that was 40 grams of carbs plus 300-ish milligrams of caffeine. And with the carbs, it was 700 milligrams of sodium. So I had about 200 grams of carbs race morning with 700 milligrams of sodium and 300 milligrams of caffeine 3 hours before the race. Perfect. The only thing I forgot was the extra 100 milligrams of caffeine right before the race, before the gun went off. So yeah, I grabbed my bags around 4:15 or so. Decided, there's no point in hanging out here. Grabbed all my bags, made sure I had everything, spare tubes, CO2 cartridges, all my hydration, my wetsuit, my swim stuff, my swim cap timing chip. I was obviously wearing the tri-kit, goggles. I had my bike bag, which had the helmet and everything I was going to need for the bike. And I head out to T2, or head out to the stadium, parked at the stadium, and then took a shuttle bus to the lake, because that was the only way. I wasn't driving to the lake. I would never have gotten my car back. Got to lake a little after 5, and again, I had all the time in the world to just get ready. The race didn't start until 7, so I had 2 hours to just make sure everything was done right. Walked through the mud again, got my bike set up, my helmet, the sweatband I wore under the helmet, good, ready to go. I put the hydration bottles on there. I put 4 bottles on there, 3 of which I was planning on for the bike ride. The 4th one was for the run, and my whole goal was to take that and transfer it into the soft flask when I got to T2. I put the honey stingers on there that I had for hydration. I had the Morton gels in my pocket. spare tube and CO2 cartridges in the repair box on the bike, and essentially I was good to go. So pumped up the tires by 5:30, 5:45, I was essentially done setting up transition. So I lathered myself up with I didn't have chamois cream, but I had this squirrel nut butter, and essentially this was to I put it around my wrists, my forearms, my calves, my ankles, and my neck, and that was to prevent chafing from the wetsuit. And to help with slipping on and off of the wetsuit, make it a little bit easier. That went on fine. Obviously, threw that in the morning clothes bag, and I started putting the wetsuit on. Wetsuit, again, they're incredibly tight, but there's no rush to put it on when you have the time to do it. So, walked up the hill, dropped off my morning clothes bag, and then I like 45 minutes to just stretch and warm up. So I did a nice lower body stretch routine that I've been working on with my chiropractor for my lower back, my psoas, my hip flexors, and so on. Got them nice and loosened up, got my upper body nice loosened up, and then I just got into a zone mentally and waited for the swim to start. The pro women started at 7, PC athletes went off at 7:10. By 7:12, the regular athletes were starting, the age groupers, and then I got in the water around 7:22. So it took me about 10 minutes from the start of the age group athletes to when I got in the water. Got in the water, goal for the swim was 38 minutes or 40 minutes. I got in the water just nice and easy, just went in, and my watch is set to alarm, to buzz at every 200 yards and every 500 yards. So I got first 500 yards, I got 3 buzzes, 200, 400, 500. And I was able to tell, okay, based on the frequency of the buzzing where I was in the course, because I was swimming fairly straight. If I look at the swim map, there should be a map in here. No. Okay, I have to go to Garmin for that. But if I look at the swim map, I'm pretty sure I was swimming fairly straight. So yeah, I'm looking. Here's the path that I took, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of deviations from the path. It seemed to be nice and straight lines, nice big old triangle formation, which was the course, first 2 buoys. So that first turn, that first buoy at the top, because we came down, out, and around. So that first turn down here in the bottom right, that's about 500 yards out, and my watch buzzed at 5 for the 3rd time right at that buoy. So I was right on pace. The next stretch was probably a little further than 500, probably like 700, 800, and I lost count of the buzzing. So it was what it was. I was just kind of just swimming, just making forward progress. The only times I was really kind of stopping in this for the first 2 buoys was if I couldn't see the next marker. So I'd look up, okay, see a buoy, and then keep going. Second turn happened, and then this is where the water kind of slowed down. Like I felt like I wasn't going anywhere at all. I started to try to increase my pulse power, just like I do in the pool, and I started to get a little bit warm, overheating, and again, it didn't feel like I was going anywhere. My heart rate started to go a little bit higher, or at least I felt it that way. So I grabbed onto a canoe for about 7 or 8 seconds, just to catch my breath, get a little water down the wetsuit, just pull it in, boom, get a little bit of that cold 71-degree water, and then off I was. Got out of the water. Now my goal was 40 minutes. Got out of the water in 38 and change. So I was actually ahead of pace on the swim, which was completely baffling to me because I had horrible swims, open water swims, the last like 3 or 4 weeks. So the fact that I had such a good open water swim just blew my mind. Okay. Then it was up to transition, and transition, if you look at transition, it was an incredible transition. It was up, around, past the field, up the field, and then got my shoes. I grabbed my shoes. I didn't even put them on. I just kind of walked them because I knew I had another walk, a tenth of a mile through the mud. Luckily, at the top of the hill where we got on the bike, they had baby pools full of water. So splash around, rinse the mud off, put the shoes on, and get on the bike. But I actually carried my bike instead of rolling it through the mud. I carried it up that hill for a little bit just to try to just keep moving and keep it from getting super muddy. Then came the bike, and goal for the bike was 240. This is where I started to know that it wasn't going to be the day that I wanted, and I'm okay with it. We got once you got on the bike, there was a a mile and a half down and back, right? And I'll show that on the screen, the down and back. And the road was wet, and the way back was uphill, but it didn't feel like an uphill. But I was pushing power, and it just honestly didn't feel like it wasn't converting to pace. Like for some reason, I wasn't able to push the power that I really, really wanted. I was pushing the power, but I wasn't getting the speed. So I kept going, obviously, and I knew to hit my goal, I had to get to mile like 20 in less than an hour. Right, I knew I had to get there less than an hour to hit my goal, because my goal was 21 miles an hour, so I would have had to hit in like 57-ish minutes. And I think at like 57, I was only like mile like 16. So I knew then that it wasn't going to be the PR day that I wanted. It wasn't going to be the 21 mile an hour day that I wanted. And honestly, I had just made a command decision that I was just going to enjoy the course. I didn't even care that much about what was happening on the course. It was such a beautiful bike course that all I wanted to do was race my race, get to the transition, and go for the run. So whatever happened at that point, and mentally I was 100% at ease with that decision. And you can't ask for much more than that. So that's kind of where I landed in that regard. So kept on pushing, kept on going, and then of course the hills came. So right around here, if I zoom in on the map, right around here is mile 27. The start right here was this is where the hill truly started. There was this quick uphill, downhill, but then right here we made this turn onto this road. I don't know what the name of the road is, and that led us to this lovely hill here. Now this hill started at mile 26.5 and peaked at mile 28. So it's a mile and a half long hill, but there were, without question, some 12 to 14% grades in that section of hill. So it was a slow grind. It's all it was for everybody. It was just grind to the top, huff and puffing the whole way there. There's going to be a downhill on the other side. Made that downhill, had a nice little push. It wasn't a big push, but it was about 15 miles to the next hill. And then that's where we got to this road here. And that led us to this hill, which started at mile 38 and went all the way to peaked at mile 41 exactly. And then I had a 1.25 mile downhill. And on this hill, there were mostly 6 to 9% incline grades. So this one was, being a 3-mile grind uphill, it was insanely tough. There were people that actually got off and walked. I was not one of them. I kept on moving and kept on pushing. Now, this hill, the second hill, was interesting because we could see the cloud coverage was covering the top of the mountains. As we're going up this hill, we're actually going into the clouds. So while it wasn't raining on the bottom, once you got into the clouds, it felt like it was raining on your face for like the last mile or so of that hill. And then you just couldn't wait to get to the top. However, for me at the top, I had the visor on and I couldn't see shit. So I actually had to pull over, take the visor off, put it in my shirt, ride down the downhill, right? And then put the visor back on. Luckily, it was magnetic, so I didn't have to clip anything. It just kind of magnetized itself in place. But it was really weird that I had to, while I was at the top, I couldn't see through the cloud because there was so much rain and whatever on the visor that I had to take it off. Enjoyed that downhill, and then if I highlight that section, my average speed was about 26.7 miles an hour. I was riding the brakes something hard. But where this section differed from last 2 years was there was a 25 mile an hour speed limit on this section in years past. If you had in that section, because there's a hard right turn at the very bottom, if you during the speed zone went over 20 or 25 or over, it was an automatic DQ. But at the athlete brief this year, they had told us that they got rid of that 25 mile an hour speed zone, which was perfect because the brakes weren't working as well as you wanted them to in the rain, And I mean, my top speed was only 32.5, but I still averaged 26 going down that section. So I probably would have been DQ'd if that speed trap would have been in place. The next 15 miles or 10 or 12 miles or so was essentially so more downhill than uphill, which was great for big guys because there was a couple sections where I know for a fact I was pushing, I wasn't even pedaling, and I was going like 30 plus, which I'm not going to argue about. Gravity was definitely on my side for those sections of the hill. Then we got to that final hill at like mile 54. That was a quick one. It was a half a mile hill, kind of a brutal one at the very end, more of an inconvenience. I want to say it wasn't really that big to focus on, but it was just an inconvenience at the very end of the ride. End of the day, my bike ride again, while it was going for 240, ended up being a 322. So I was 43 minutes slower than that. And again, like I said, I didn't care. Now we're on the final section, the run. And the run was awesome. So obviously, as a Penn State fan, I was looking forward to the run the most. The run was where we spent the most time on campus. So naturally, I was more excited about that section of the race than anything. And it started off with a nice little uphill, but then it went into a lap around the Penn State Beaver Stadium, which was surreal. I mean, I've been to the stadium before. It's been about 26 years since I've been there, but I've never come out at field level through the players' tunnel, obviously, because never was a player. Running through that tunnel and then seeing the stands wrapping around you, I mean, you have to look up to see above the stands, was amazing. And the stadium was empty. I could only imagine, and I even have a hard time imagining what it would have looked like, sounded like, felt like with 108,000 people cheering. So could put what we experienced, where there was no sound, no crowd, no cheering, nothing, and put that on for a football game. It's a complete opposite. It blew my mind. So, but the first lap I kind of just went around. I did my thing. I kept on moving. My goal was to just enjoy the trot, enjoy the jog. At this point, I know I'm not going for any records. Let's just go. So I went as long as I wanted to, as long as I could. If I had to walk, I walked. I tried to limit my walking time to the amount of the length of an aid station. Sometimes it would be during the aid station, sometimes it would be before an aid station, sometimes it would be after aid stations. Either way, I would walk for maybe 30 seconds to a minute max and then get back to jogging. My average pace for the run, so I finished the run in 2:36:15, which obviously I'm 40 minutes from a PR in the half marathon. But I will say this. This was a 70.3 half marathon PR. I've never run sub 3 in a half marathon at the end of a 70.3, and this one I actually did. So again, I had a great swim, second best 70.3 swim ever, and this was my best 70.3 half marathon. And again, I'm totally stoked about that. Ran past the creamery, I think we had to go down and back on each lap. My mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my nephew were there cheering for us, so it was great to see somebody there on the course cheering for me. And it was phenomenal to see family be there. Went around the rest of campus, running through some of the other buildings within campus, past the Nittany Lions Shrine. We went through past the football practice field, the lacrosse field, the Bryce Jordan Arena. And then we'd up a hill and do it again. I mean, there were hills on the course. It wasn't anything like detrimental. It wasn't like crazy. It was just a really, really, really good course. Now, granted, it rained, or it was rainy, it was cloudy, it was in the 60s, so it was like perfect, ideal temperature for me during an event. I was not overheating. I was drinking my hydration. I had the Martin gels. And again, I was just enjoying myself. So I don't know what else I can really say about the run other than it was great. It was steady. Like I said, I did have some walking sections. I had some running sections. I maintained a pace. My average pace was what, 11? What was my average pace? My average pace for this was like 11 something, 11:50 something per mile. So 11:51 per mile. Can't really complain. After the race, no, but the only other thing I can really say about this is during the second lap through the stadium, I wanted to enjoy this, and I, almost finished the stadium. I got right in front of the student section, and I was enjoying myself so much, I stopped and just looked around. I stopped and just took it all in, walked through the players' tunnel. You could see the locker room on the left, the media room right next to you on the right. I don't know if I'll ever be back there to do that again. I don't know if I'll ever go back to and see a game again, although I want to. So I was just taking everything I possibly could in for that race. And that was that. So again, overall, I had it was what, 6:40? 6:49:54 according to my Garmin, which might be a little bit off. And I don't care. It's the second best 70.3 I've ever done. First one was Miami at 6:29. The rest of them have been over 7 hours. And it is what it is. I think Knoxville might have been 6:50 something, but I'm not mad at this race. And some people might say, well, whatever, you didn't hit your goal, blah blah blah. You saw, I don't know, whatever, man. If I didn't hit my goal, I didn't hit my goal. After Texas, someone said I had excuses. I have none. I enjoyed the race. It wasn't my day. I knew it wasn't going to be my day. And I did, but nothing went wrong. Everything went wonderfully. I enjoyed myself. I was able to eat after the race. I didn't look sunken in and dehydrated. I had no GI distress. I felt really good after this race. Like, I can't ask for anything more. And if anybody watching is gonna say negative shit about not hitting my goal, whatever. Like, say it. It is what it is. I wanted to hit a goal. I set my goal a lot higher than I probably should have. Sue me. It is what it is. Here's the medal that we got. Pretty solid medal. I'll take it. It's got the little nittany line down here at the bottom. And again, I'm going to enjoy this one. I'm going to enjoy this. So right now the push is to try to get Ironman to renew this for more years. I've already told my wife that if it does renew again for a few more years, I will do it again. I had that much fun at that race, and I know it could be way hotter. The weather could be different. A lot of things could be absolutely different, and I'm okay with that. But it was just such an amazing venue. Not only just being at Penn State, but the Amish country, riding the bikes through the Amish country, waving at the Mennonites that were out there with the kids, and they were supporting, and they were asking, they had big signs that said, "Where are you from?" And people were yelling out what states, and they were just keeping record of what states, what countries people were from. The Soup Town was super supportive of everything that we were doing. The support on the course, outside the course, the swim course was phenomenal. The setting in the mountains was just beautiful. I would absolutely do this one again. But yeah, I'm not mad at all. So the big question is, what is next? And to be quite honest, I don't actually have a race scheduled in the future. Basically, my plan is I'm taking the next few weeks where I'm not really following any kind of really structured plan. I'm going to try to, I hit the gym already on Thursday to do a body pump class with my wife. I'll probably mess around with the gym for the next couple weeks, but I know after the 4th of July, the following week I have a work trip to Mexico where I'll be gone for the week, and then the following week after that I'm on vacation. We're going to Orlando to go to Epic Universe again for another 4 days with Gigi and our friend. So it's just me, Connie, Gigi, and our friend Jimmy. Mackenzie can't make it. She's working, but that's fine. We have a trip in December with her. So after we get back from Orlando, my plan is I'm doing a 12, possibly 16 week. I'm gonna try to do a cut. I really am. One of the things I could probably improve on is definitely losing weight, and I've wanted to do this for 3 years now, since Chattanooga's been over, and I haven't really done it. I've always found an excuse to get back into racing, and this time I'm very, very confident that that's not going to happen, and I'm so confident I don't have a race that I'm signed up for. So we're gonna go back to lifting in the gym pretty heavy. There's gonna be a nice 12-week series on the cut. To do that there, obviously it'll be eating with a deficit. I am going to keep up my running 3-4 days a week. Obviously running's not for the weight loss, running's just for conditioning and just so I don't lose too much of my cardiovascular capabilities, etc. But the goal is going to be to get closer to 200 pounds again, maybe even just under 200 pounds. If I go back in there, I'm planning for a trip to Nashville in August as well as a potential one in October. Nothing set on either one of them yet, although August is pretty much going to happen. Nashville in October might happen. We're not sure yet. If that does happen, then after I get back from Nashville, I'll probably start a marathon block. But when I start the marathon block, it's still up in the air. It's depending on which marathon I want to train for. I'm either going to do Austin in February, run the Alamo Marathon in March, or the Rock and Roll Nashville in April. Not sure which one of the three I want to do yet, but the start date, the race date is going to determine when I start training for it. I'm going to try to give myself 20 to 24 weeks probably 24 weeks this time to do that, but that's it. And then I think I'm pretty set on 2026 Ironman Florida. So I'm done with triathlon this year just because, a lot of trips happening. I'm ready for a break, but 2026 Ironman Florida in November of 2026 will probably be the next race. And, I'm choosing that one because it's the start of my final 5 years trying to qualify for Kona. I'm giving myself one more age group. Next year I age up to 45 to 49-year-old age group. I'm giving myself one more age group to qualify. If I can't qualify by the end of that age group, then I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do my thing and maybe have some fun with races. But that's the foreseeable future. Again, we're going to try to do a cut, a lot of time in the gym, eating a deficit, a little bit of cardio, and then depending on what marathon I want to do, I will sign up I'll start training in that time frame. So, but yeah, so if you've been following the Path to Pennsylvania 70.3, thank you. I had a lot of fun. I know the videos weren't really kind of churning out there, and if they were, it was kind of like this. You know how tough it is to come up with different topics when you've been doing like 6 training blocks in a row for the same type of thing. So hopefully next time I come back into an Ironman block, which will be, I'll either do Project Boston back in starting again in October, and then chasing Kona next year for another season of that. I might actually have more things to talk about and better things to talk about and whatever. So that's that. I'm going to end this video now. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for following. Stay tuned. I may put a couple videos out between now and the start of the cut. If not, it'll just be starting in, I think, July 21st when I start the gym. I don't know when the first video is going to be out after that. I'm going to try to do it probably Sunday or Monday release. Either Sunday or Thursday. I don't want to do 2 a week, but it'll be Sunday or Thursday video releases. But thank you for watching. Comment below what you hope to see in the next series, or what some things you think I could do or you'd like to see me try between now and then. I do have some time, not too much time, but I have some time. So I will talk to you in the next video, whenever that may be.